Hi, welcome to Prime Recap. A Roman architect travels 2,000 years into the future to spy on the inventions of modern society and apply them to his empire to help his troops win the war. Today we recap the story of the 2012 movie, Thermae Romae. In the year 128 BC, Emperor Hadrianus ruled Rome and earned the reputation of being a tyrannical leader, as he crushed all who opposed him. At that time, the citizens liked to go to the bathhouses that became known as thermal baths, and the emperor took advantage of this to get the support of the citizens. Lucius is one of the architects responsible for building these bathrooms. However, his designs are becoming outdated, which has led to him eventually being replaced by Virtus. Seeing his friend sad after losing his job, Marcus invites him to one of the town's bathhouses to cool off. Although he enjoys the public baths, Lucius hates the mess the Romans make of the Thermae, believing it should be a place to relax. In addition to the fighting arenas, even street vendors have taken over, making the thermal baths no longer a tranquil environment. After getting into the bathtub, Lucius sits under the water trying to think of an innovative idea to implement in his work. Suddenly, he spots a hole in the bottom of the bathtub and approaches to check the leak. At that moment, the man ends up being sucked along with the water and emerges in a completely new place. Seeing those strange people, Lucius is confused and wonders if this is the place where prisoners bathe. However, when he pays attention to the details around him, the man realizes that this is an advanced civilization, full of accessories and utensils that he never imagined would exist. Immediately, Lucius realizes that he can take inspiration from those ideas to build something innovative for his people, and while he thinks about his future projects, the Japanese try to help him find his clothes. Curious to explore every bit of that world, the Roman enters the women's locker room without any clothes on and causes the despair of the ladies who are changing inside. Suddenly, one of them throws an object at Lucius' head and he ends up fainting. Mami is a young mangaka girl who is also inside and, upon seeing that man's naked body, starts drawing him. However, it doesn't take long before some other guys show up and drag her companion out of that room. When Lucius wakes up, one of the old men hands him a bottle of fermented milk and the architect is impressed by the taste unlike anything he's ever experienced. At this point, Lucius realizes that these people have surpassed the Roman civilization in every way. As he tastes that delicious drink, the architect gets emotional and starts crying. When he wakes up, he is surrounded by his fellow Romans, who claim to have saved him from drowning. When he sees Marcus, the man asks about the tribe of flat faces, but his friend starts laughing, believing he is delusional. However, seeing the empty milk bottle right next to him, Lucius realizes that nothing he experienced was a dream. In the following months, the architect implements this idea in his city and all the thermal baths in Rome now have fermented milk for sale. One day, while taking his bath next to an elderly man, Lucius hears the old man saying that he would love to have his own bathtub at home, and Marcus says that this is a very extravagant idea. When he goes to wash, the gentleman realizes he has lost his mop and Lucius dives in to look for it. After picking up the object, he is once again sucked into modern Japanese society and emerges inside a small bathtub. As he scans the place, Lucius wonders if there is a prisoner lighting a fire to keep that tub warm and soon begins to study that invention in order to implement all those new ideas in Rome. Meanwhile, Mami shows her drawings to the owner of a publishing house, who mocks the young woman's work and claims that she does not have enough talent to become a successful manga. Machiko lives with her elderly father and claims that a nurse is about to arrive to give him a bath. The old man then heads to the bathroom and, upon seeing Lucius, mistakes him for his nurse. So he asks the man to rub his back and then uses a utensil to wash his head without wetting his face. After being confronted with the sheer size of that population, Lucius begins to reflect on his new ideas and Mami finds him crouching in the bathroom. Upon seeing him, the young woman runs to get her notebook and the architect accidentally ends up splashing a hygiene product on his own face, which causes tears to start coming out of his eyes. When Mami returns, she realizes that the stranger has disappeared again and is frustrated that she cannot draw him. In the following months, Lucius succeeds in creating the domestic bathtubs and makes them affordable for even the poorest people. This way, the elderly in his town no longer have to attend public baths and can relax in their own homes. Now that he has officially become Rome's #1 architect, Livia throws a banquet to celebrate and says that after dinner she wants to have an intimate evening with her husband. The woman's biggest dream is to be a mother, but because Lucius is always working, she has not yet been able to get pregnant. However, the architect feels guilty about taking credit for another civilization's inventions and is not at all excited to spend the evening with his wife. Upon realizing the man's disinterest, Livia feels frustrated and goes to her room to cry. Just then, a messenger knocks on the door and informs him that the emperor wishes to see Lucius immediately. That evening, Hadrianus praises the work the architect has been doing in recent years and then shows him the new project he has been thinking about. The emperor then gives Lucius the difficult mission of building a grandiose open-air therma, and he promises that he will not let him down. A few years later, the Villa Hadriana appeared, which was entirely designed by the emperor and executed by Lucius. After accomplishing the biggest project of his life, he receives another mission from Antoninus, the emperor's advisor, who asks him to build another public bath for the population. Afraid of not meeting the emperor's expectations, the man considers trying to be sent back to the tribe of flat-faced people for new ideas. However, before he could reach the bathtub, he ends up falling into a lake and teleports to a furniture store, where Mommy currently works. As he enjoys the hot tub, the supervisor kicks that man out of his store, but Lucius pushes him away and starts wringing out his clothes, which are soaking wet. Embarrassed by the whole situation, Mommy hands him a robe so he can cover his body, and the architect gives a coin to the young woman as payment for her to guide him through that civilization. When the store manager appears, Mommy tries to hide the stranger, but Lucius insists on getting into a bathtub and, after contemplating that fine work, walks to the bathroom. The architect is surprised to see the toilet seat lift on its own and, after doing what he needed to do, accidentally triggers the cannula that splashes water to wipe his butt. The sensation caused by that jet of water is so relaxing that it causes Lucius to start crying, and once again he disappears. This way, the store manager can't find him. A few months later, the whirlpool bath becomes a reality in the Roman Empire, and so does the toilet that shoots jets of water. Thanks to all these innovations, the architect is promoted by the emperor and rushes home to share the news with his wife. However, when he gets there, he finds Livia in bed with Marcus and realizes that not even his best friend can be trusted. After trying life in the big city as a mangaka, Mommy accepts the fact that her dream will never become a reality and decides to return to her parents' home. Arriving there, the young woman soon gets to work helping her mother keep the place in order and chats with the old people while cleaning the place where they usually take their baths. With their help, Mommy was able to unravel where that coin Lucius handed her came from. When she discovers that the artifact came directly from the Roman Empire, the young woman begins to study absolutely everything about the history of ancient Rome. After suffering a serious love disappointment, Lucius locked himself in his house for several days while drinking to try to forget the serious betrayals he suffered. Some time after his disappearance, Antoninus finds him in his home and asks for his help in consoling the emperor, who is in deep mourning for having lost his only son. In Japan, Mommy shares her findings with the elderly people living in her mother's boarding house when her father shows up and says he asked one of his colleagues to analyze the robes Lucius was wearing when he showed up at the store where the young woman worked. After assessing them, his friend said that those clothes came directly from ancient Rome and are more than 2,000 years old. Later that day, Mamuska shows Mommy the photo of her future fiancé, whom she herself has arranged for her daughter. The young man is the son and heir of the owner of Hotel Atami, and the woman claims that he is the best option for the young woman at the moment, since she will have to close the pension, as she is not able to pay all the bills. Upon hearing this, her husband is in shock, as he did not know this information either, and Mommy, concerned about being a good daughter, decides to heed her mother's advice. During the night, while walking through the city garden alongside Antoninus, Lucius spots Cionius trying to seduce a lady of the court and luckily appears in time to stop him. Antoninus then reveals that the man is extremely disliked by women and, from what they say, he will be the next emperor, since Hadrianus's son has passed away. After saying this, the advisor takes Lucius to check the palace's large therma, which is already neglected due to the time it has not been used. The architect then enters the water to try to open the drain and empty it when suddenly he appears in the cage of a crocodile. Coincidentally, Mommy is at the zoo at this moment alongside her future fiancé when she realizes that Lucius is trapped and Noboru helps him break free. While he goes to get some clothes for the stranger, Lucius carries Mommy away and asks her to guide him, again, so he can unravel the mysteries of that world. When they arrive at a plantation, the architect devours a banana for the first time and is amazed by the delicious taste of that fruit. Immediately, he starts planning a way to grow it in Rome, and Mommy takes him to see the best of her city. The couple are in a store practicing target practice when Lucius spots a small monkey stealing his banana and decides to chase it. When he arrives in the middle of the forest, the architect spots a large open-air bathtub and remembers the mission he received from Hadrianus, who commissioned him to build something similar in the city of Rome. While enjoying a relaxing bath, Lucius spots the banana peel floating and goes after it. Again, when he wakes up, the man is back in his world and Antoninus reveals that he almost drowned. Soon after, the architect manages to plant the fruit he brought from Japan and builds an open-air spa for his emperor. For the next 3 years, the Roman Empire fought a hard battle against the barbarians living along the northern banks of the Danube River. During this period of wars, Hadrianus became ill and sent a letter to Lucius via a messenger. Through it, The emperor informs that he intends to appoint Sianius as his successor and asks the architect to build a large bathhouse for the public in his name. In this way, the population will support him as their new leader. After reading this letter, Lucius goes to speak to Sianius and finds him, again, trying to seduce another young woman from the city. The architect then refuses to carry out the work he has been commissioned to do, and the man claims that if he does so, he will be acting against the emperor's will, which is considered an act of treason worthy of being punished by elimination. Shaken by these words, Lucius is about to return home when he is surprised by Virtus, an engineer who, because of him, can no longer get any work in the city. The man is furious and attacks Lucius with a knife. However, the architect manages to defend himself and knocks the blade out of his hands. Virtus then knocks him into a well and he wakes up in the boarding house belonging to Mammy's mother. As he is injured, the elderly have him lying under a heated floor, and when he wakes up, Lucius is taken to bathe in the natural springs that are around that place, as the minerals present in the water can help him heal his wounds. Seeing the scars on those men's backs, Lucius concludes that they are war veterans and is impressed that they are still alive after suffering so many blows. After trying boiled eggs for the first time, the architect takes a shot of sake and the effect of the alcohol in his mouth makes him think he has been poisoned. Immediately, Lucius gets out of the water and walks with difficulty through that place until he finds Mommy, who throws some water in his mouth in order to neutralize the action of the poison. Immediately, the man realizes that he is cured and the young woman reveals that this water has a detoxifying effect. Since she last saw Lucius, Mommy has dedicated herself to learning Latin so she can communicate with him and, for the first time, the couple are able to talk. However, the architect is under the influence of alcohol and both end up falling into the bathtub. When he wakes up, he comes across Sianius and the man asks who the woman is who is next to him. Just then, Lucius realizes that Mommy has been sent to Rome with him and the heir begins to drag her back to his house. However, Antoninus appears to stop him and forces Sianius to free the young woman. The man then accepts his defeat, but before he leaves, he promises that he will take revenge on him. Antoninus then asks if Lucius will build the therma in Sianius's name and the architect states that he will refuse to do so. Knowing that he will be expelled from the city and forced to serve in the war, he begins to pack his luggage to leave, even after Mammy's advice. She knows that if Lucius enters the battlefield, he will die. So she runs through the city after him, but can't find him. While sitting on the floor, Mommy hears the announcement of the new governor of the province of Pannonia and learns that Antoninus has been chosen. Meanwhile, at Mamuska's boarding house, the old folks spot Mammy's hat floating in the bathtub and begin to believe that the young woman has drowned. Just then, her father jumps into the water to try to save her and starts to get sucked into the deep end. In an attempt to help him, his friends go after him and they all end up being sent to Rome. Before being sent to war, Lucius is taken to the emperor's tent and Hadrianus tries to convince him to fulfill his task. However, the architect is willing to die to defend his principles, so the emperor thanks him for all the services he has rendered to the empire, but states that he never wishes to see him again. On the way back home, Lucius finds a perfect site for the construction of a public bath, whose water possesses the same healing properties he found in Japan. Later, when he arrives home, the man is greeted by Mommy, who is relieved to know that he is alive. After embracing him, the young woman informs him that Antoninus is leaving for the province of Pannonia, where he will stay for the next 5 years. Immediately, Lucius realizes that this decision was influenced by Sianius, who wanted to take revenge on Antoninus for confronting him. Upon hearing this, Mommy discovers that she has just altered the course of history, for the right thing to do would be for Sianius to be sent to Pannonia, where he would die as a victim of the plague and Antoninus would take his place as the emperor's heir. Then, to prevent Antoninus from being sent as ruler, Lucius decides to pay the emperor another visit and states that he has changed his mind about building a therma in Sianius's name. According to him, Antoninus suggested that the architect build a bathhouse in the camp for the soldiers, as there are mineral springs there that are effective in healing wounds. In this way, the Roman soldiers will be able to recover to ensure their victory in the war. After saying this, Lucius gets Hadrianus's support to carry out the project that, according to him, was Antoninus' idea. In the weeks that follow, the architect works hard, along with the prisoners, to carry out his greatest work. Despite spending several hours on the project, they can't see much progress, which leaves Lucius very frustrated. Mommy is also working when she spots the soldiers taking some elderly people prisoner and quickly recognizes them. The young woman despairs at seeing her father and friends imprisoned and tries to explain to them where they are. When he realizes that his daughter is helping to build a thermal bath, the old man offers to help and all his companions are freed to act alongside Lucius. The group works together to build the biggest spa they've ever seen, and even though they know they'll get absolutely nothing for their work, the old men happily do the job. As a result, within a few weeks, several recovery tents are built around the camp and a hot tub is formed to help treat wounded soldiers. After several months of incessant battles, the Romans finally won the war and the old men were seen as heroes by the soldiers. One night after the war, the elderly gather around a fire and Mommy sits next to Lucius a few meters away. Suddenly, the wind causes embers to spread everywhere and the old men disappear after starting to tear up. Mommy is so happy to have a moment alone to talk to Lucius that she doesn't even realize what has happened. Then, when the architect thanks her for all the help she has given to the empire, the young woman starts crying and notices that her body is disappearing. At that moment, Lucius realizes that the same thing is happening to her that happened to him, because every time he shed tears in Japan, he was sent back home. Now it is Mammy's turn to leave Rome and Lucius promises that they will meet again. Suddenly, the architect finds himself alone in the middle of the forest and, at that moment, he realizes how much he will miss his beloved. It is already evening when the young woman and her family return to the boarding house and, despite having lived in Rome for several months, not a single day has passed in Japan. A month after winning the war, Hadrianus hosts an event to thank all the soldiers who have been in battle and pays special tribute to Antoninus, who had the idea of building thermal baths in the camp to help the wounded recover. In gratitude, the emperor says he will grant Antoninus' wish and send someone else to the province of Pannonia. That way, his advisor can remain in Rome. On that day, Lucius is also honored as the architect who executed the project and accepted the emperor's thanks on behalf of everyone who helped him carry out that work. In the following years, after Hadrianus perished, Antoninus ascended the throne and the empire experienced a long period of peace during his reign. Cionius, on the other hand, was not as fortunate, as he assumed the post of governor of Pannonia and died after being infected by the plague in the province. For the construction of numerous innovative bathrooms, Lucius was remembered as a famous architect and no one else knew what happened to him after the war. After everything she experienced in Rome, Mommy decided to write a new comic book and this time she got approval from a publisher to publish it. On the way back home, she hears a noise coming from the river and soon realizes that Lucius has returned to fulfill his promise. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.